We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study, and each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State. Welcome to On the Shane page. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. Jonny is not with me yet today. I think he's going to hop into the show just a little bit later. But filling in for Jonny is Brandon Lee Gowton. Give him a follow on Twitter at Brandon Gowton. Be sure to check out his work on Bleeding Green Nation. Brandon, how are you doing today?
Glad to be here. Could never really fill the shoes of Jonny Page. Jonny is excellent. Really love, obviously, his work for BleedingGreenNation.com. I'm going to be posting a Cooper DeJean film review that he has probably after I do this podcast with you here. So I'm looking forward to looking at that more closely. But yeah, just really enjoying the episodes of you guys. I am listening every week.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate that and always enjoy having you on the show. And oh, here's Jonny popping in. I was going to say that I need you in a tank top complaining about how hot 78 degrees is if you're really filling in for Jonny. But Johnny's here now, so I guess we can let Jonny complain about the weather for himself. How are you doing, Jonny?
I'm good. Sorry I'm late. I mean, technically I wasn't meant to be here, so can you be late if you're not meant to be somewhere? Have you just started? I literally have no idea. I can do 1 minute at the top. Is that?
Yes.
Yes. I was just about to ask BLG to complain about the weather so you could be here in spirit, but now you're here. So how hot is it, Jonny?
It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly
wow.
normal. Yeah, no complaints, no minor heat waves. Life is good. Yeah, I couldn't miss a BLG show. Shane was like, we're recording tonight. I was like, oh God, it's BLG. Literally got home about 10 minutes ago. Had the quickest dinner of all time. The little man fell asleep in the car, which is the absolute dream. So, yeah, life's good. So I thought I was going to crash late and try and be catching up the whole time, but now I'm not. Have zero preparation, read zero Eagles news this entire week I've been away, so I know nothing. So I'm sorry, BLG. I'm just going to grill you with like incredibly basic questions. I'll try and read some basic updates while we're talking.
I'll just start making some stuff up, and then
yeah,
you can see if it's real or not.
I guess. I also, this is great podcasting. I never sent Jonny the question list because I didn't think he was going to be here. So Jonny, I will drop that in our Google chat just so you have it. And yeah, let's roll. So maybe, I don't know, I almost feel like we should just restart. Yeah, I almost feel like we should just restart the podcast now. But no edits here. We're live, so let's jump in. BLG, we were talking about this briefly before we went live. Like, this is the time of the year I feel most useless because there is nothing for me to watch. And so I love being able to have you on the show because you actually get to go attend some of the practices. You just got back from a practice, I believe, today. So I want to just kind of feel you out and see what you've seen through 3 practices for the Eagles. So let's start with the headliner. Jaylen Carter did not participate with a shoulder injury the first 2 practices. I haven't seen anything from today. I've been out all morning. So did he practice today?
No practice today for the 3rd day of training camp. He also missed practice in the final minicamp practice back in, I think that was like June 10th, around there. Not majorly concerned. The way it's been framed is that if the Eagles were really concerned about that in a big way, they would have put him on the PUP list like they did in Kobe Dean. I think they're kind of, my read on this from my perspective is that Jaylen Carter is obviously massively important to this team, to this defense, and I just think they are playing it extra cautious with him and aren't taking any chances, and I think he'll be fine.
All right, so you don't think there's going to be any issues with Carter and the shoulder? Because I think I remember reading that he was dealing with some shoulder injury during the playoffs last year. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was probably popping up on some of the injury reports, but obviously didn't miss time and didn't impact his snap count. So, yeah, I think it's all managing it. I think just, again, being extra cautious, not messing around at all. No need to tough it out when we're in late July here still, and the season is, more than a month away. So, yeah, I think he'll be okay.
All right. I know that teams are typically pretty cautious with that, so I haven't been overly concerned, but it is something that was on my mind a little bit. Let's go on the flip side of the injury spectrum, and that is that Jiad Campbell has been practicing, which I think was a little bit of a surprise, especially given some of the comments that Vic Fangio made after the draft. So obviously great news that he's out there. He's been limited, but how has Campbell looked in the things that you've been seeing?
Yeah, we were expecting Jiad Campbell to maybe not practice until August because that's what Vic Fangio had said back when we heard from him during the team's OTA practices. And, Vic is honest. He's not like playing games with the media. As he put it, it's just that he's learning that the Eagles medical staff likes to under-promise and over-deliver, which is really a good way to handle it, really. I mean, better than the opposite of that. So that fact that Campbell is out there, he's officially listed on the Eagles injury report that they submit to the media, which they don't have to, but they just do that, just, help, I guess, give some kind of context for these injuries. And he's listed as limited on that injury report with a shoulder issue. But, there's really no way to tell he's limited in terms of, he's practicing the full amount of reps that you would expect, mostly with the second team. Today, for the first time on the Eagles' third practice on July 26th, he was with the first team for a little bit, mixing in there. Not primarily. It's still mostly Jeremiah Trotter Jr. next to Zach Bond with the starters. But the fact that we're seeing Campbell kind of work his way up the depth chart slowly here. And also the fact that when he spoke after practice, he had said that he does not expect to be limited, or at least he will be participating when the Eagles have their first padded practice of training camp, which is, I believe, set to be on Tuesday. So the fact that he's out there is huge because, again, we were thinking maybe, okay, what if this is like Cooper DeJean last year, or Cooper DeJean misses most of training camp, and then therefore Vic Fangio doesn't really trust him to play early in the season. The Eagles don't flip that switch from Avonte Maddox to DeJean until after the bye. Here, I think the fact that Campbell's already practicing gives him a real chance to start week 1.
So, Shane, is Campbell playing off ball solely as well, BLG? I'm guessing so. I haven't, as I said, I'm completely out of the loop, but has he played any edge or?
Mostly off ball. He talked about this after practice again on Saturday, and he said that that's where his focus is being a great inside linebacker. And then it's kind of been he'll work on some pass rush drills and moves after practice, kind of on the side. So that kind of seems to be the focus right now, but more full-time off-ball linebacker, situational pass rusher.
Yep, which makes all the sense
right
in the world.
That's interesting.
BLG as well, by the way. Sorry.
I was going to say, that's interested because they told me after the draft he was going to be an edge rusher. That's what Twitter told me. So
don't trust Twitter, Shane. What's going on?
I try not to.
Sorry, BLG. Have you been you can tell for listeners, I'm so sorry. I'm fully out of the loop. You've been at 3 now, haven't you, right?
This is the third practice, yes.
And just out of interest, we had a long chat last year about the joys of training camp and what you can and can't take away. But how does no pressure on you after 3, just make you quote it, but how does Campbell look? I feel like he's one of those players that, does he look quick? I wonder if he's a jump off the screen type player in practice or not.
Yeah, I haven't I need to spend a day just specifically watching him. But part of the reason why I don't like to do that generally is because I want players to just pop out when I'm not even looking for them.
Yes.
And I think there have been moments where that has happened. He did have a pass breakup on day 1 on a throw on the flat to Danny Gray, who's a very fast wide receiver on the Eagles roster. So you like to see that. I think the thing that stands out to me the most about him, though, thus far, is just his size. He really
small.
He's just so long, and he does look like an edge rusher frame wise. Obviously, he played that in the past. I don't think he will play there, but the fact that he's just so big, and yet he moves around very well for being that big. It really stands out.
The Eagles have got some weird sides on defense, haven't they? You've got Jaylen Carter, who looks like a safety playing edge. Aaron Smith severely undersized. Campbell's long. They are a weird bunch, the Eagles front 7. And then, I don't know, Zach Bourne looks like he could be an edge easily as well. All right, cool.
I swear when Jonny says Campbell, I hear Cam Ward. And so I thought he asked BLG how Cam Ward looks. And I was like, why would he know? Why would he possibly know that? All right. Next guy I wanted to ask about BLG is Jordan Davis. So Jordan Davis said that he is down 26 pounds from last season, and he looked slim in the picture. Mm-hmm. I got downvoted into oblivion on Eagles Reddit for mentioning the best shape of his life for the 3rd season in a row, and how much I hate the best season of his life or best shape of his life thing. But Do you think he said that he doesn't want to come off of the field in 2025, and obviously everybody's going to come off the field at some point, but do you think he will still play an impactful role as a pass rusher this season? He's stated that's his goal. It hasn't really been a thing in the past, but do you think he gets on the field in late downs as a pass rusher?
I mean, he better, right? For the money, like they're giving him real money now, and I'm not saying like force it. Ultimately, Vic Fangio will do what is best for the team. See Bryce Huff last year, but like ideally, so the way I'll frame it is that Jordan Davis played the fourth most snaps of any defensive tackle they had last year. He was behind Jaylen Carter, he was behind Milton Williams, and he was behind Moro Ojimo, including if you include the playoffs in there. And again, when you're paying him like you did, not only just this year. I mean, this year he's still on his rookie deal, but you pick up that guaranteed fifth-year option. Like you're projecting a bigger role moving forward, not just in terms of his ability as a pass rusher, but like literally the ability to be on the field and play more snaps for them. Like he's gonna have to play more snaps than he did last year. So yeah, I absolutely think getting in shape, like all that's well and good. That's obviously you can't argue it's like it's a worse thing for him. But I don't think that's like the magical wand that people seem to like treat it. At least it seems like in terms of, oh, he's in shape, therefore he's gonna have this amazing breakout year. Like there's still some things there. I'm sure you guys can talk about that and have talked about it much better than I can in terms of like pass rush moves and technique and leverage and playing with all those things that kind of need to be refined. I think before we see any kind of major breakout season from him.
Yeah, man. Is there anything worse than off-season weight talk? This one does seem like legit. Like I don't want to like jump all over Jordan Davis and be like, oh, this is ridiculous. Like fair play to him. He's obviously changed. Like we're not talking like a couple of pounds. Like 26 pounds is a reasonable amount. And I actually have read his quotes because it was mentioned on Discord earlier, Shane, which has been my source of news basically. And to be fair to him, he gave something interesting, didn't he? Where he said like the hierarchy above. I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, but he said like they told me I'll be playing more. And he didn't just seem like a guy coming out there and saying like, this is what I want to do. It felt like he'd almost been maybe given a little bit of a directive. Like you can't rush the passer at your current weight. Like basically Dexter Lawrence can and no one else can. Like you're going to have to slim down a little bit. There needs to be a little bit more quickness. Like I don't care how big you are. You've got to speed things up a little bit. And as long as it doesn't impact his run stopping stuff, then sort of why not? I think the Eagles are going to need more playing time this year at defensive linemen, I think. I think there's too many fans that are just like, oh, Milton Williams out, Ty Robinson in, like done. I'm like, well, one's a hell of a lot rawer than the other one. I think the idea that Jordan Davis is not going to be needed more this year is probably wrong. So, yeah, fair play to him. I do also think, though, whether you can do that, like keep the weight down, and I'm not a sport science nutrition guy, but I'm guessing in season it's different. The wear and tear on a body, like the summer shred is real, I guess. Like it's easier to do in the months of June and July, but whether you can keep that weight down when you're playing every week, whether you're maintaining, like I imagine there's a certain amount you've got to eat because you're trying to deal with recovery, etc., etc. So it'll be something to monitor throughout the season, I guess. I think all the time you see players that come in season at one weight and then they finish the year and you're like, there's no way he's playing at that weight right now. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. As you mentioned, BLG, they're paying him real money. Whether he gets re-signed or not, I know it's a big talking point. Will have to depend on this year. But they will need him. So, yeah, I guess that's something you'll see as well throughout training camp, just whether he looks like he's got a little bit more juice. Because that is a pretty significant drop of weight. For a big guy, it may not seem as much, but you'd expect to see a slight difference, I would guess, immediately.
Yeah. And he's been active. I mean, today he had a pass break, a pass deflection. He got in the backfield a couple times, so it's good to see. It's neat to see it. So it's not that, you're expecting him to be a double-digit sack guy or anything really even close to that this season, I would say. Consider that Jaylen Carter had 4.5 sacks last year. That doesn't come close to telling the story of the season that he had. But, we need to see more than, what he's had, each season, 1 or 1.5 or 2, whatever it is. I think we kind of need to see something maybe closer to that, 4 or 5 number.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a few of the position battles that are active in training camp, and most of them are on the defensive side of the ball, but which tends to be the case when you return 10 of 11 offensive starters. But there are two I want to ask you about on the offense. The first is right guard, and it looks like from your practice notes, Tyler Steen's taken the majority of the reps with the ones at right guard. Do you think he is the week 1 starter, or do you think that's more related to like the Kenyon Green injury? How do you see that shaking out?
Yeah, to me, this battle, and shout out to Tommy Lawler who came on the podcast. Loved hearing him on here with you guys earlier this offseason. I think it's between Tyler Steen and, if anyone, Matt Pryor. Now, I think Steen's gonna be the starter week 1. To answer your question, is he the starter week 8? I don't know. I am a believer in Tyler Steen. I just think that it's like never been like he's been this liability when he's been out there. And I also think that the fact that he played defensive tackle in college, moved to left tackle the final year at Alabama, and then to move at guard, like it doesn't surprise me. It's taken some time for him to find his footing here. So I think he's going to get that crack at it. The fact that Matt Pryor is consistently lining up as the second team right guard, and Kenyon Green, who missed the first 2 days of practice, returned in a limited basis here on Saturday. He's been lining up at left guard, where he did with the Houston Texans. I just don't see. I think there's a better chance that Kenyon Green doesn't make the team than he does. Like he starts this year at right guard at least, barring injury. So yeah, I do think Steen's gonna get the crack at it, and I think if he falters, if he really struggles, to me it would be Pryor who would kind of get that next chance.
Well, okay, and then the other one on the offensive side, I've seen a lot of buzz about Terrace Marshall. Do you think could he legitimately push for wide receiver 3 with Jahan Dotson? Is that a possibility?
I don't think we're there yet. Like I wouldn't say that right now. I think we could get there. Training camp. There's still I don't know, like 12 practices left or so. Some preseason games here. Things could change. Injuries could happen. To me, I asked Jimmy Kempski this on the last practice we had, and I was like, who's been the third best receiver this offseason that we've seen? And albeit in a limited sample size here. And he said Terrace Marshall. And I'm like, I agree. And that's why I asked the question, because I don't think it's been Dotson. I don't think Dotson has been bad, but I don't think he's been so good that he's definitely their third best receiver. I think they're going to give him that chance. I don't think they traded for him and are going to give up on him, especially after you give him a full offseason to work with Jalen Hurts. And also the third receiver kind of doesn't actually really matter in terms of they barely use that guy apparently, and Jalen Hurts is not going to throw that guy a ton. It should matter. It should ideally be nice to have a guy that they can kind of go to every once in a while. And I think it's Dotson for now. That's my answer if I have to lock it in right this second. But I think Marshall, who got some first team reps today, could potentially push for that if he keeps it up.
Yeah, this is more of a broader point as well. But one thing I always find from training camp, I was writing about Jiad Campbell today. For Bleeding Green, and I always find when I look at quotes from other players, players tell you stuff about other players because they go against them all the time. And again, I'm out of the loop. Has there been any buzz from Terrace Marshall from the players themselves? Because am I right that AJ Brown spoke about him, didn't he?
Great question, Johnny. Yeah, and also Jalen Hurts back in the spring. I believe Jalen Hurts was asked a question about Jahan Dotson and his chemistry with him and building that. And he brought up some other receivers, and the first guy he brought up at that point, and he specifically noted he had a good spring, was Terrace Marshall. So the fact that Jalen Hurts is saying that seems significant to me, and I would file that away.
Yeah, because I always think that's. I think players can tell, can't they? I think it was Jordan Mailata who spoke about Jaylen Carter and said about how quick he is and how he moves, and I was like, interesting, because that sort of makes you sort of stand up. Annoyingly, I can't find. I've desperately looked. The only notes I have in Terrace Marshall was my Bleeding Green ranking. I wasn't particularly high on him, so I had him in a second, third. I think he went mid-second, didn't he?
Yeah.
I had him as a sort of second, third round. I had him below guys like Elijah Moore, even people like Kadarius Toney, Bateman, etc. But I remember him. I did literally profile him as a big slot. I think there was a lot of discussions, and NFL draft season seems to blend into every year these days. But if I'm right, there was discussion about he was the classic. Can he play outside? Can he play slot only? And I had him down as a big slot. I think the Panthers or whoever drafted him obviously saw him more as an outside player, but I basically didn't. And I questioned his vertical separation. But I did mention that, I think big slot suits him. And I think if the Eagles were going to choose to have a sort of slot receiver in that mold, I would probably rather a bigger slot than what Dotson gave him last year, because Dotson was such a net negative in the screen game as well. The Dotson thing's weird, not to go off on a tangent, but I feel like he gets a really big pass because people just assume that Hurts never throws in the ball. And I think we highlighted last year, Shane, there were some routes that were pretty poor. The film was pretty average last year, and I was a Dotson guy going in. I was a big fan of him coming out of college. I was a big fan of him in his first few years of Washington when he played really well. But I don't think it's like crazy talk to say that someone else could step up as wide receiver 3. I think this Eagles organization have shown they're not going to stick to guys they've drafted or guys they've signed if they're not good enough. And yes, they gave up a meaningful pick for Dotson, but if he's not good enough, he's not good enough. So Marshall was the one that I am very closely monitoring, just because I'm not very impressed with what I've seen from the other Eagles receivers as well. So it was AJ Brown, wasn't it, that spoke about him as well.
Yes.
So yeah, and of course they're always going to be nice about each other, but he will be one that I will be looking at closely. I say looking at as in reading your reports, basically, and other guys that I trust about how he's doing.
They gave up less for Jahan Dotson than they gave up for Bryce Huff, so they will definitely move on from guys. I am here for Tanner McKee hooking up with Terrace Marshall all throughout the preseason. That'll at least make it fun to watch, having some more depth there.
Yeah, you're going to see that.
We've got a comment, actually several comments here on YouTube asking about Andrew Makuba and a collision with Danny Gray where he was down. I don't know anything about that, but did you see that, BLG? Is Makuba all right?
I don't know how Makuba's doing. I did see some tweets about that. I don't think I saw him carted off or anything, but yeah, I'm not sure. That happened later in practice where there was a pass over the middle of the field. Danny Gray made a really nice diving effort. Makuba was kind of trailing there right behind him, trying to contest the play. So I wouldn't be surprised if a player got banged up on that play, but I don't know anything more than I guess we all do.
All right. Well, let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball and a couple key position battles there. I think they're both in the secondary for me, but let's talk first about cornerback with Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson. So from what I read, Keely Ringo got the reps with the ones on day one and looked kind of shaky. And then Adoree Jackson got the first team reps on day two. Who ran with the first team today, and what do you kind of make of the Ringo-Jackson competition?
Yeah, so they've been rotating these without too, just because Ringo got the first team reps on day one, but Adoree Jackson would mix in a later 11-on-11 team period, and then vice versa with Jackson starting on day two. I did think it was interesting, kind of that Jackson has had 2 days in a row now where he's been the first team right cornerback, because by contrast, Sidney Brown was the first team safety on day 3, just like he was on day 1, whereas Makuba was on day 2. So, you can't read into it and say definitively one thing or another, but it's interesting, and obviously you kind of continue to monitor that as it's going forward. I think Keely's had not a terrible start to training camp, because from the standpoint of when you're going up against AJ Brown, at some point, I don't really know what you're supposed to do other than play tight coverage as much as you can, which I think he has on some of the losses he's had to A.J. Brown, where it's he's been in good position. It's just that it's A.J. Brown. So, he's probably going to beat you, even if you have really good position. I say that, and at the same time, Jonny, who just brought up, Terrace Marshall's questionable field stretching ability, I mean, he beat Keely Ringo down the field from a pass from Tanner McKee on day 1. So, I think I think you would have liked to see him be better than he has to this point, but I don't think he's been bad. I don't think that's accurate. And I don't think Adoree Jackson, we've seen anything from him either way that really sticks out as great or terrible. So I don't think anyone's really separating themselves in the cornerback battle. I do think Ringo will still ultimately get the first crack, but if he does stumble, I don't think they're going to, be shy to play a Jackson over him if Ringo really stinks it up.
And you mentioned Makuba and Brown flip-flopping as well. What's been your sense of both of those guys, and where do you kind of expect that job to ultimately land?
I think the fact that Makuba, is rotating in already with the first team, says a lot, because I think coaches typically, they slow play rookies. I mean, look at Campbell. Campbell has been mostly with the second team. It wasn't until today that he started rotating in with the first team. So the fact that he's already rotating in there, the fact that Vic Fangio was not the defensive coordinator, was not here when the Eagles drafted Sidney Brown, and he very much was when they took Makuba, I just tend to think Makuba's going to win that job. But I also think the fact that when you are seeing the Eagles line up in their base defense, and then Cooper DeJean is playing safety, that also tells you they're not really crazy about their safety options right now. And obviously they're only going to play base so much. But the fact that we're already seeing that, and it's always possible you could sign Justin Simmons or make a trade or whatever. Those things are still on the table. It's not like it has to be either Sidney Brown or Andrew Mukuba. I don't think we've seen any separation either at safety, and also I think safety more hard to see that in training camp, at least relative to some of the other positions.
Is Makuba solely at safety, or has he played any nickel as well? I think I saw someone saying he was in the slot, but I never know if, with all due respect to beat guys, whether he's just playing safety and covering the slot, or if he's actually lining up at nickel.
Yeah, I would say almost exclusively safety. There's some dime packages where he's kind of been down, as that extra, like there's one, I think a look they used today with like Cooper DeJean and Bakuba as like the slot options there in their dime package. But yeah, I think he's mostly safety.
Yeah, I love the base talk as well. Like the Eagles barely ever play base, and everyone seems obsessed when I saw like Cooper DeJean's playing safety and bases, and I'm like, yeah, well that's like 4 times a game maybe, if that. And the whole point of Cooper DeJean in the slot is that you never have to play base anyway. So
right.
I guess it's still interesting that they're asking him to add to his mental workload, because he's still got to learn a new position at the end of the day, if they are going to ask him to do anything there. So that was a little bit noteworthy to me. They were asking him to do that, and it does make me a little bit cautious of what they've already got there. But it could be the simple sense of that if we're going to play base and we're not going to play DeJean outside, we want him on the field every snap, so we'll play him wherever we can play him. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading more about how Makubu actually plays, if they change his role at all. But no, it sounds like from what you said, mainly at safety so far, except for that dime package that they'll probably run like twice a game and everyone will get very excited about in June and July.
All right. Well, is there anybody else, BLG, that has stuck out to you in training camp? You said you just kind of like to watch and see who sticks out.
Yes.
Either in a good way or a bad way. You could take this either way, but who else has really just jumped off the field at you?
Yeah, one guy I'm definitely going to write about today in my training camp notes at bleedinggreennation.com is Moro Ojomo, who just keeps flashing in the backfield. It reminds me of Milton Williams last year. I'm not saying they're going to necessarily have the same kind of season. Milton Williams obviously had a great year last year, but maybe he will. But just point being there that I wouldn't even be looking for Milton Williams last year, especially in practice. And boom, there he is in the backfield again. And the other day he forced Tanner McKee into incompletion. Today he kind of got some quote unquote sacks by getting to the quarterback. Basically, while he still had the ball there, non-contact drills. So the fact that he's really stepping up, can't say I'm surprised. I think almost everyone in Eagles Nation has been pretty high on him and feel like he can step up and replace Milton Williams. But still good to see the actual follow through there, and we're seeing him really stand out in a good way.
That you're speaking Johnny's language there.
I know. I'm just Googling Moro Ojomo to see how many good articles I've written about him that I can take the lead on. I'm not sure. He's a weird player, man. Always been a weird player. He is genuinely, and I mean this. I think, who's the other guy they drafted? Safety, 7th round years ago. I forgot his name. Green hair.
Oh, Jalen Mills.
Jalen Mills, that was it. I can remember his surname, but his first name. Mills is probably the only other player, and he obviously had off the field stuff, which is why he failed. I've watched a late round pick, and I'm just watching the film, and I'm like, am I watching the right guy? Sometimes football's not very complicated. You just watch a guy and you're like, well, he's good. Yeah. I'm watching a Jomo and he's like, well, he's clearly good. I don't really understand. And you look at his numbers, combine numbers, and they're quite good. And you read things at the Senior Bowl and he blew up, and you're like, did we miss something? Is something gone wrong? And I remember as I'm scrolling through my Bleeding Green, I mentioned Jaylen Mills' film. I just said it was just so obvious that he was so much better than a 7th round. It's just weird. Because I'm actually, the one that I've gone back to, which I didn't realise I'd written, I'm only just looking now, was I did write a film review after his rookie year. And he only played 68 snaps. So there's not much to go on. But I'm watching 68 snaps, and I'm like, he's playing well in all of them. We're not talking about a guy, and that's when you know someone as a rookie is, good. When he's not got the chance to play because he's a 7th round pick, and there was loads of guys with defensive line ahead of him at that point. And I'm watching, and I've got 5 clips from 68 snaps. God, I gave out a shout saying the Eagles may want to start playing him more over Fletcher Cox. Wow. Sad times. Must have been angry when I typed that out. But there's just reps where he's good, and he's still good, and he's always looked good. And now, as I think Kempsky wrote and saying he was really good as well. And it's just really weird, isn't it? I don't know, there must be a story behind why he fell. I think undersized, lack of
Yeah.
pass rush production wasn't there. But like we see run stuffers go before the 7th round. I mean, it was just obviously scheme wise, size wise, it didn't fit for a lot of teams. But I find him the most fascinating evaluation because basically he looked good in college and he's looked good in the NFL whenever he's played as a rookie, second year. And yeah, obviously I'm going to watch him closely because when you shout out a 7th round pick and say this guy's really good and then he becomes good, you're obviously going to mention it for like the next 10 years because that's just the way of the world. It's what you've got to do. We'll ignore the ones I've got terribly wrong. But it is impressive and he's going to have a massive role this year. Like, I like the phrase single point of failure. Like, there's any team, and outside of quarterback, obviously, I think most teams single point of failure is a quarterback. But if there is a position for the Eagles that is a single point of failure on this team, it's probably Jaylen Carter. Like, if he goes, can they survive? And, like, if he does have a knock and he does miss a few games, Jonny's going to have to be good. Because they're going to need to have one more. I don't think you can just rely on Carter just being, like, basically the top of his position every single week. You're going to need someone behind him to play. So yeah, that is very good to hear. I know it's only early on, but as I said, every time we hear stuff about him, it's just always positive. So what do you want to hear?
This is why I clip up things like Jonny saying that Johnny Wilson's a bigger, better George Kittle, just so I can play those and keep his ego in check at times.
I'm writing my post-draft reviews now as BLG knows for Bleeding Green, and I'm reading back some of the comments. Although I'm taking a lot. Oh, you're going to love the Will Shipley one that's coming out probably next week, BLG, because in my Will Shipley review, I literally write, I'd much rather the Eagles take someone like Tyrone Tracy. I'm like clicking that up, sticking that. Yep, got that definitely right. And then I just won't talk about the Aniyah Smith saying he's like a great fit for the offense, and it might go really well. We'll pretend I didn't say that about Aniyah Smith. We'll just look at how I didn't like Will Shipley that much compared to Tyrone Tracy, and then Tyrone Tracy goes off.
That's funny you brought up Smith because I was gonna like bring up someone who I think hasn't been as good. And it's not even I don't think he's like directly struggled. It's just that I'm talking here about Terrace Marshall. I'm talking about Danny Gray.
Yeah.
Like, do you hear me talking about Aniyah Smith? That's the thing.
Do you know what his problem is? He's slow.
Yeah.
That's his
and
problem.
Small.
And I didn't realize that when I watched him that much. I was like, oh, and then I looked at his RAS and I was like, oh, it's like in the 7s. It's not the end of the world. And then you're like, but hang on a minute. Like, everyone's talking, myself included, like he's this little gadget slot player. He's like this bubble screen guy, like quick, like you can run him on reverses. And then you look at his 40-yard dash and you're like, oh, he's actually like slow and he's small. And like, what are we really doing here? Like, I completely missed, and that's the time when I think speed does matter. I'm trying to find his 40-yard time now, and I can't get up for some reason because the RAS site isn't loading. I think he ran 4.55, and I'm after recovering 4.47. All right, it's pro day. Whatever you want to give that, but I think there were some times that had him in like the 4.5s, and I was like, oh yeah, that's not really going to cut it when you're 5'9", 190.
Yeah.
So I mean, unless he's rapid, he's not going to stand out, is he? Whereas someone like Terrace Marshall, naturally, especially when you're watching it from the sideline and there's no pads and stuff, he's going to look just bigger, isn't he? Yeah, I have no hope for Smith at all.
Well, that was the whole thing. Like he was supposed to be slippery and like change of direction type guy, and I don't know. I just never saw it. I saw it some. I saw it some on his college film, but I didn't see it at all when he got very limited opportunities last year.
I think I was just obsessed last year. I was fully obsessed with the Eagles finding this sort of shifty slot receiver for Kellen Moore's offense. I was so convinced they were going to use someone and they just didn't. Just got it completely wrong. Like Dotson just played there all year. Then Johnny Wilson played there, and I was like, it's just not. Before that, every Kellen Moore offense had this like running back wide receiver hybrid, and the Eagles just didn't do it.
I was going to say, to be fair, we did think that Kellen Moore would run the Kellen Moore offense, and then he just didn't. So. We got the highest number of jet sweeps in the NFC Championship game, and we were running him to Dallas Goedert.
Dallas Goedert, yeah, it's like great, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just got that completely wrong. But there you go.
So, all right, Jonny, I've got one more question for BLG, but it's not about training camp. Do you have anything else training camp wise you want to throw at him first?
Yes. Sorry. Now I'm just gonna just go off on one.
Yeah.
Right. I'll try to be concise. I'll just hit you quick fire, and you can just throw anything because, as I said, I'm out of a loop. Backup running back also because I'm writing about Shipley today. AJ Dillon. I saw one report saying he was playing more, but it was after like one training camp report. But is Dillon like running back 2 at the moment, or is that nonsense?
I think maybe that's split because I think they really like Will Shipley. I know you don't, and
I'm fine with Will Shipley. He's just a guy. He's a perfectly fine jack.
I agree, and it's kind of like I wasn't the biggest Kenny Gainwell fan, and I think he's basically gonna kind of have some of that Kenny Gainwell role. I mean, it's not that like he's terrible. It's just you're not really getting excited by that. So I kind of think that's that. But I thought it was interesting today. Kevin Patullo spoke for the first time in training camp, Eagles offensive coordinator, and mentioned his pass catching ability, Dillon's, which really you don't really think of AJ Dillon. He does have some history of that with the Packers a little bit, but kind of went down each year, at least since his second year there. So he specifically brought that up, and he has caught some passes. I don't think he's like a dynamic receiver, but
No.
yeah, he did bring that up on his own. I thought that was interesting.
I think we have a big cliche of small running backs being good pass catchers, and sometimes they're really big guys. Like I think because like the old school Derrick Henry, like run, never catch, take him on third down. And actually, you look at guys like Najee Harris for the Steelers, he's better out in space than he is after time running. Actually, I mean, I looked this up because I'm cheating. So Shane, I won't pick on our guest. I'll pick on you. Without looking it up, Will Shipley's stats last year. Obviously, he played one random game at the end of the year when they had no one there. But how many catches did he have last year? I'll give you regular season and postseason. How many catches?
Combined in the whole season?
Yeah, whole season.
2.
He had 4.
Okay.
Like he only played 30 snaps in the past game. I looked 34 to be exact, and he averaged 2.7 yards a carry, by the way. But anyway, not including postseason. To be fair, not including postseason. We had that one long run and also got caught up. But anyway, 4 catches. Like the guy who came out was like, I remember PFF called him like Budget McCaffrey. He was like this guy in space. Like I'm pretty sure they did. Or I've made that up. But I'm sure someone called him McCaffrey anyway. It might have been PFF Sam. Someone said he basically was like a McCaffrey like. But that was what he was like. He was like a third down guy. I mean, his pass protection always worried me a little bit. And that's something we just haven't seen at all. But when I saw he had 4 receptions, I was like, Jesus, man, they really trusted Gainwell over him. So I think there's a little bit of a myth there, like AJ Dillon can't catch because he's big. And I'm like, as you said yourself, it's interesting that was mentioned because he's caught like 20, 30 balls every year, basically. And if Shipley can't pass protect, like this is really basic analysis, but I bet Dillon has an understanding of pass protection. He's also big, so you're less likely to get rocked and pushed back into your own quarterback. So you might see some third down AJ Dillon stuff. Right, I said we'll be quick, and then we spent like 2 minutes on one player. Tight end. The floor is yours. Tell me, is there anyone that looks like they're starting as tight end 2, or is it just a complete sort of mishmash of bodies at the moment behind Dallas Goedert?
I think Calcaterra still is that number 2, even though we all know he can't block, which is a problem. I still think he's that guy, though. I think they like him, or I think he's just in that role. And then I think it kind of comes down to, will it be Kylan Granson or Harrison Bryant for the third job? Because I don't think they're going to keep 4, because I do think they're going to keep Ben Van Sumeren as a fullback. You don't need to keep 4 tight ends and a fullback. You keep maybe one of those 2 guys, the one you don't keep on the practice squad, depending on how that shakes out. None of those guys have really been head and shoulders above the other to me.
Cool. And one... Actually, on that note, I'm now fully Shane on your side. He's not even a guy I like that much, but I'm fully on like trade for Darnell Washington.
Yes.
Because I read reports that the Steelers might be like tight end 4 on the Steelers or something at the moment. They just hate him, and I'm not sure he can catch, but he can block everything. And I'm sick of tight ends that can't block. It's like becoming a bugbear of mine, unless you're unbelievably good as a pass catcher. But they've got now, obviously they've got Freiermuth, they've got Johnny Smith, so I think he's like dropping. So maybe. And I'll give you one final. Sorry,
bring back Jack Stoll again. Watch him do
I'm perfectly fine with Jack Stoll. I'd much rather Jack Stoll. Final one I'll give you, because it's been like 3 sessions. I'm asking you like this is all set in stone. But edge rusher, this is fresh in my mind because I'm writing about Hunt today. And obviously Nolan Smith is guaranteed, I imagine, to play the most snaps, I would guess. But has Jadix Hunt been like the guaranteed starter opposite him, or is he? And if he is rotating, is it Josh Uche, or is it my guy Ojulari who's stepping up? Has it been anyone just purely playing time, not looking at like performance and what you've seen, but playing time wise, who looks more likely to play the most snaps opposite Smith?
well, on performance, yeah, I do think it's Jaylen Hunt. Just he's everywhere. Like you really notice he's someone who stands out. Not even just as a pass
Freak
rusher.
athlete.
He's just all over the field. And it's hard not to like that guy, man. Just from a personality standpoint, too. He just has like a really good attitude and energy to him. Nolan obviously brings a lot of that too, and I think that's really nice to have when you lose Brandon Graham. I think both of those young guys kind of bring that juice and the energy, the passion there, and kind of just being in a good mood a lot of the time kind of helps lift the spirits of the team. I'm really excited for Jaylen Hunt. The fact that you have Jordan Mailata out here he compared him to Micah Parsons. At least his ability to cut on the dime is what he said.
Yeah, that's the quote I saw.
Yeah, and that's that's high praise. I think Mailata. I don't think Mailata's just doing that about just anyone. I think like you kind of have to earn that at some level for him to get to talk to you. But I also think he's doing that with the intention of like trying to push him. Like it's like, hey, like you can be really special. Like keep going with it. So yeah, I'm excited for Jaylen Hunt. I think Nolan Smith and him. These are putting a lot of eggs in that basket of those young players. Like stepping forward. You have to do it at somewhere on your roster. When you're paying all the money that they are, like you kind of have to go cheaper and kind of hope some of your draft picks work out somewhere. So I get it, but we can acknowledge that like it's not proven production. But to me, I feel good about those guys. Guys behind them, I don't really know what to make of that. You've seen Uche rotating in. You've seen Ojulari rotating in. I was listening to Fran Duffy talk on the PHLY podcast. I think I brought up before that like he did a film study with the free agent editions back in March or April.
Oh no, is Fran going to tell me I'm wrong about everything? I believe.
I think like you, I think he really liked Ojulari in the past, but watching his film more recently, he's like, and even watching him in training camp, and from what I remember Fran highlighting this, just like the movement skills look a little deteriorated and just don't look quite what he used to be. I'm not saying he's cooked, but I just don't think like. I don't have high hopes for him being like special and a steal. I think he can be like, a good enough part of your edge rotation, like your third or fourth edge. Yeah. But like, I don't have much hope for him beyond that.
They're short, aren't they? If Ojulari doesn't do it, I'm not an Uche guy. Like I haven't seen it really with him when I watched. I know he had that one big year with the Chiefs, but I mean, the guy wasn't even playing last year. Basically, they're short. Like if those two can't do it, they're going to have to make a move for someone.
I mean, admittedly, they signed Obo Okoronkwo, who isn't a lock to make the roster, but the fact that they're adding like a veteran edge help, to me, that move was like, a seal, or not a ceiling, but a raising, but a floor raiser. It was like, in case all these guys stink, like here's a guy who might be able just to play snaps for us.
Patrick
a lot of people talk about the secondary and the turnover there, but I think if the defense really happened to go off the rails this year, it's far more likely that it's because the pass rush is really bad than it is because the secondary is really bad.
I'll just give you, because I was looking this up earlier on, because as you can probably tell, I'm in rookie or last year's rookie mode because I was doing work on it today basically. And something I found really weird was I was looking at Jaylen Hunt's numbers last year, and he didn't drop into coverage any more than anyone else, which I think is interesting because we all know what Jaylen Hunt was like coming out of college. Former safety. So my obvious analysis of him was basically, I'm not sure he's an out and out edge. Like I think he might be like a bit of a hybrid. And the fact you said you can see how well he's moving, sort of sums it up. But weirdly, when you look at his numbers, they did not use him differently in the slightest last year. They were straight up edge. Like just to give you two random players, like if you compare Josh Sweat played 120 more snaps than Nolan Smith, right? But Josh Sweat dropped into coverage 12 times less. So Nolan Smith was used slightly differently than Josh Sweat because that makes sense, right? Nolan Smith should be better in coverage than Josh Sweat. Jaylen Hunt played basically 20 more snaps than Brandon Graham and dropped into coverage twice more than Brandon Graham. Like they used him as just like a generic edge. Like, I mean, Brandon Graham, bless him, you do not want him dropping into coverage. Jaylen Hunt did not do it any more at all. He did it basically like a bog standard edge rusher rate. If anything, if you extrapolate his numbers and you imagine he's played Nolan Smith snaps, he's actually done significantly less snaps in coverage than Nolan Smith would have, which I find really odd. And I think that could be a big untapped part of his game this year. Yeah. I don't know how you care about PFF's coverage numbers, so whether you care about this in the slightest or not, and I don't know if I do either, but it's just a data point to have. Brandon Graham's PFF coverage grade was 52, Josh Sweat's was 55, and Jaylen Hunt was 72. Now, limited, But as you've said from watching him, he just stands out. The guy moves so well. There's a tweet I've got in the article. I think it was Josh Allen, who even played the Bills last year, where he tackles a very mobile quarterback in space. And it's just not a play that you can...
It was Lamar, I think.
Was it Lamar? It was somebody... did we even play the Bills last year? We didn't play the Bills.
No, I'm pretty sure that I remember Jaylen Hunt taking down Lamar in the
probably
open
Lamar. I've literally looked at the play today, which is great. And it's just like there's no one. You're not putting Josh Sweat in that position or Brandon Graham in that position. They're not making that tackle in coverage. Like, I'm really interested to see if his role develops, because he just looks so fluid. Yeah. Such an impressive athlete. I can imagine he's the kind of guy that properly jumps out in training camp, because just of his frame. So yeah, that's good to hear as well.
And I could see him, having that bigger role, maybe in coverage or just varied, because the fact that he was already playing it all last year was like a big, he was way ahead of schedule, I think, based on his background. I don't think they were trying to complicate things for him based on...
Shout out Bryce Huff.
How much of a jump he made. So I do think now is that time where you can kind of, open the role there.
I do worry, and this is, I think Kempsky had an article on this in the summer. You can tell I read BLG and Kempsky and a couple of other guys like Tommy, and that's pretty much it on the Eagles beat these days. Kempsky had something, and I'm sure he said, are we overrating the Eagles pass rush because of how good they were in the playoffs? And that's my one little nagging point at the back of my head. I looked at Jaylen Hunt numbers, as I mentioned, because the way I'm doing, as you saw BLG with Quinn Mitchell, is I'm going through and quoting from my piece last year, so I can really sort of hold myself to account to an extent. He played 6 pressures in the first 8 games. He didn't play more than 17 snaps. He barely, he didn't exist. I went back and expected myself to be really critical of myself, saying I was way too harsh on Jaylen Hunt. And when I looked, he played 17 snaps in 8 games, and I'm like, well, for a 3rd round pick, that's pretty low at a position that rotates a lot. So it's true he was really raw, and then he just blew up in the playoffs and played 40 odd snaps, most 7 pressures in the 3 playoff games. It's just. And you almost hope that he's not we're not all overrating it because of what he did in the playoffs. But then that's also the most recent sample size we've got.
Right.
And he looks really good. So I think he's just significantly ahead of schedule, because I'm going back and reading my report, and I am putting a big caveat that his film was impossible to watch. He just looked so raw as a pass rusher. So raw, and then they looked like there was such a lack of a ball rush or strength, and now you're watching him rock right tackles back into the lap of the quarterback, and you're like, wow. I think his development is it's one of those things that for Eagles fans we talk about it, but nationally it's not spoke about, and it's a shame, because it should be a bigger story, because his development's really impressive. I don't think people realize just how raw the guy was. I didn't go after him that I did with Davion Taylor, who was just as raw, because at least Hunt had a clear position. That was the thing for me. He's the kind of guy I'd love to watch at training camp, just to see how he moves compared to other people in his position. Right, I'm done, Shane. That's my take up BLG's time and just waffle about positions and players. I think I'm out. I think I've done my homework. I love having BLG on, because it's rather than just go and read 15 different training camp pieces, I can read Bleeding Green and then just ask him everything. So it's fantastic.
I remember saying when the Eagles drafted Davion Taylor that his ceiling was being a decent player on his 2nd contract with a different team.
Worst of all time.
That didn't play out, but anyways.
I think he's in the CFL.
Yeah.
Honestly, he had a play where, when I said a man had no idea what he was looking at, I think I would have played better on this net rep, because there was a crossing route running behind him on play action, and it was he was in a different universe. When the guy caught the ball, he turned around what? They can do that? It was so hard to watch him play. He didn't even scan. It's a guy playing linebacker who didn't even turn his head to check if anything's around him. He just stared at the quarterback, and I was like, what are we doing? But anyway, let's not talk
Anytime
about
we talk about linebackers, I just can't get the picture of Nate Gary. I think it was against the Bengals out of my head, where he's just looking the wrong direction on a play. But,
yes. God, old Eagles linebackers, man. Who's the guy who just couldn't run?
You're going to have to narrow that down.
Yeah. I mean, literally couldn't run anymore.
I remember...
You're the guy's playing and can't move. How are we playing him?
That was the most sad I've ever felt for like a
Oh,
player.
it was
I think
so
ever.
rough.
And I would read Johnny's reviews, and like you were saying the same thing. You're just like man, I hate even like saying
What do you want
that
me to
he's
say?
bad, because it's just like this is terrible. He can't even run.
Yeah.
Like, it was
And
just
we were fighting with the
horrendous.
Cowboys for the right to
That's
sign
right.
him.
Yeah,
Oh, good old days.
At least he got that one last payday.
yeah.
So
He was.
all right. Well, my last question for you, BLG. Spinning it forward a little. Obviously, the NFC East hasn't had a repeat winner since 2004. By the way, 6 of the other 7 divisions had a repeat winner last season.
Yeah.
The one that didn't was the NFC West, who had a repeat winner the year before. So 2023 or 2024 for every division except the East, and it's 2004.
So wild.
It's crazy. Is this the year the streak is broken? Do the Eagles go back-to-back as NFC East champs? And you can just kind of use that to briefly give me your official prediction for the other divisional teams. How do you think the season shakes out?
Well, you have to be like a fool to say they will, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, every year, it's like, no, for real, this is going to be different this time. But I will say, from a standpoint of, I don't feel like great about these other NFC East teams. I do like the Eagles' chances. The Giants, I think, I mean, they have a very tough schedule, and they also have quarterback uncertainty. And I also still don't think the roster is very good, so I think they're gonna struggle. And also, I don't know if Brian Dable's even a good coach or not. Probably not. So I think the Giants are in the basement, or at least I'm not really. And then even if they're good, I mean, let me see it. Like, they never beat the Eagles, knock on wood, but they just don't beat the Eagles, so they're not a threat until proven otherwise. The Cowboys, I think they might be the second best team in the division. I'm not the biggest Dak guy, but I do think he is good at beating up on some of the cupcakes in the regular season, and I do think they're going to bounce back. George Pickens, I think the downside hasn't been considered enough with him, as it's been talked about when they made that move. But there is upside too. He can make some incredible plays. To have him and CeeDee Lamb, they needed a second receiver so bad for years, really now. So I think they'll be okay, but still, they're putting a lot of faith in like Brian Schottenheimer, who has not really been good at all in the NFL, being good as a head coach too. So, and also the weirdness of the Micah Parsons situation. There's just I'm not really like thinking the Cowboys are going to be amazing, and even if they do make the playoffs, Dak Prescott always underperforms in the postseason. He's one of the worst playoff performers in terms of any quarterback who's ever at least won one game. And then you come to the Commanders, who I can the thing I am looking forward to most about the Eagles 2025 season is not even the Philadelphia Eagles, it's the Washington Commanders, because I think people have like bitten the cheese. That's a film phrase, right? They take the cheese, like when you bite on like the play action so hard. I think people have done that with the Commanders so hard. They're like, oh, they had this great year last year. They're in the NFC Championship game. They're this team on the rise. And they're not this team on the rise, because they're like the oldest roster in the NFL. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be very good, but possibly takes a step back this year. And even if he is great, I think like the rest of that roster, they're just putting so much faith in these old guys. They were one of the healthiest teams in the league last year. They're not going to have that same injury luck, I feel like, with all these old players on the team who are past their primes. And also they've given up draft capital for those players. Like, I think it's just very weird that the Commanders looked at what they did last year and said, we get to pick up right where we left off. And it's as simple as we just add these win-now players, and we're going to be even better next year. When I think a more prudent, forward-thinking strategy would have been like, hey, we're probably due for some regression this year. We won all these one-score games last year. We're relying on a lot of old players. Maybe we kind of not need to take a step back in terms of you're trying to lose fewer games, but in terms of like assessing the long term and saying, hey, let's build like a core around Jaden Daniels that we can kind of contend with for years to come, as opposed to like going all in on him right now. I get the allure of taking advantage of the rookie contract window, but I think you can do that in a way where you don't have to build the oldest roster in the NFL like they have. So I think that team is due to eat some humble pie. Them and their fans have been very vocal, and like almost to a degree where I don't think they remember the fact that their last game was getting waxed to the NFC Championship game to the Eagles, allowing 55 points and getting totally destroyed. So as you can tell from my energy here, like I'm really looking forward to seeing the Commanders take a step back. I still think they could be, I still think their future might be. I'm much more afraid of like the 2026 Commanders maybe. especially if they retool after this season. But in 2025, I just think they're poised to take a step back.
Yeah, man. Have you seen, just quickly, have you guys seen Jerry Jones talk about Micah Parsons? Have you seen his latest press conference?
He called him Michael Parson.
Michael Parson, and he said, like, he's just, even if we pay him, he's going to get injured. Like, he said this phrase, where, like, he missed 6 games last year. He didn't. He missed 4. And I paid Dak, and Dak's never here. And I'm like, it's just, yeah, it's, they might
Everything's
be cooked.
going fine.
Like,
That's like
they
when
might be cooked. Also,
that's like when Washington was.
Sorry,
go
Shane,
ahead.
just quickly, if any of you've seen it, he like, not to come after like Jerry Jones because he's old, like not to come after the guy for his age. But
No, it's okay. We can.
one of his like eyes wasn't fully open half the time, and I was like, is he all right? Like
I don't think he's all right.
Michael Parson. I mean,
Parson.
if you haven't seen the clip, Shane,
I need to go watch
good.
it. I haven't.
It's not as good as me saying it as it actually is. Listening to it, it's nothing like Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
And then honestly, he's like he said something. Yeah, like we paid Dak Cloden. He wasn't here half the season, and he missed 6 games last year. And fans are like, he genuinely didn't even miss 6 games. Like, and you're coming after your own player here. And yeah, Washington, man. I can't. It's such a shame, man. This is why social media is bad and why I need to get off it more, because I now dislike Jayden Daniels. I think Jayden Daniels is awesome.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
I
But
agree.
I'm now like. I'm quote tweeting, and I give into it, and I'm being basically a fish. When like you tweet something stupid and then someone bites, and you tweet the fish emoji. Like, don't get me wrong, I've been caught a fair few times, but I tweeted about Bucky Brooks' thing yesterday. Like, you're meant to work for the NFL. Like, you can't include it. He literally like puts down into like the top tier of Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Jackson, and Daniels, and I'm like,
Yeah.
but what are we doing here? Like, you guys played 1 year, and he was talking about like dragging their teams to the winner's circle. I'm like, none of them have won except Mahomes. Like, Hurts is the only guy. Yeah, it is. The Daniel stuff's mad. Like, CJ Stroud, I still think might be
I was
better.
going to say,
CJ
people are doing this after CJ Stroud was great his rookie year.
I
And
get so annoyed with that, and I'll be honest, I'm a bit there of Tanner McKee as well. Sorry, Tanner McKee, but sample size, man. How many times have we seen quarterbacks come in, play well for 8 games, and then everyone figures them out?
Nick
and they're
Foles,
rubbish.
yeah.
Like, I'd like Tanner McKee, but like, he may not be the same player if he plays.
You
more.
watch
Like,
your mouth, Johnny.
watch your
I'm
mouth, Johnny.
sorry. I get so fed up of sample size. Like,
We
NFL
can
defensive
we can
coordinators
say
are
that about other
spare.
teams' players, but not Eagles backup quarterbacks.
Correct.
We love backup quarterbacks.
They're
differently.
going to stare at Jayden Daniels' film all off-season. There's going to be like a million things that they're going to know every single tiny weakness of his. If there's a certain concept where they run and he looks the wrong way, or he's late to a certain throw, they're going to know about it. Crowding people after 1 year is just utterly absurd. And by the way, I think he's awesome, and I think he might be legitimately like special good. But I almost don't
agree.
care. I don't care how good he is. It's irrelevant how good he was. It still doesn't mean you can be certain they're going to be that good. Even if he threw like 40 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, I still wouldn't be putting him in with the Mahomes, the Burrow, the Allen tier, because sport is all about longevity. You have to do it over a period of time. Doing it in 1 season, like, no one's got film of you. I remember Robert Griffin III. I know injuries played a part, but like, that rookie year was unbelievable. And then people were like, "Oh, this offense is actually pretty basic," and they struggled afterwards. Like, I'm so with you, BLG. I couldn't be more with you. I'm really hoping that Debo's crap and he kicks off on Twitter and it all just goes completely wrong for them.
I would root for that no matter who Debo played for, though. So genuinely like one of my least favorite players in the NFL.
He was slow in this video I saw the other day. He had been doing the anti-Jordan Davis diet over summer in the video that I watched. But he did not look.
He found what Jordan Davis lost, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm now Googling him and it looks like he's now like super fit. But the videos I watched were. Well, he'd probably be unbelievable now. Don't get me wrong, he's very talented. He's just.
He's still going to be talking about James Bradbury in post-game interviews. I genuinely think that Washington's defense is just not going to be very good this year. I think I expect the offense to be good.
What do you mean, Bobby Wagner? Manti Te'o's linebacker 1 in the NFL. Something I saw earlier on today. He ranked him as the best linebacker in the league. I'm not kidding. And I think the exact quote was, "Who knows linebacker play better than Manti Te'o?" I was like, well, clearly everyone.
Zach 1/7, right?
Everyone, because if anyone who goes, that Bobby Wagner guy is better than that Fred Warner guy in San Francisco.
Who turns 36 this year, Bobby Wagner.
Yeah, which means that basically, to answer the quote, everyone knows linebacker play.
To be
better than
fair,
the
Bobby
hindsight's
Wagner was really good last year. But
Sure.
yeah, at a certain point, he's got to fall off. But
I think he's
yeah, I
number
feel
one
like
in the NFL. Yeah.
I feel like their offense could be really good again if they can get Terry McLaurin to show up. The defense,
Another
I've
big
got some
problem.
concerns about for them. But the whole Jerry Jones things reminds me of when Washington was in contract disputes with Kirk Cousins and the GM or the owner. Somebody referred to him as Kurt instead of Kirk. And like doubled down on it, like said it like several times during the press conference. I can't even remember who it was now, but that's what popped into my head with the Michael Parson thing.
That's a
Good
great
times.
move when you want to like disrespect someone, but in a very like subtle way. But
Yeah.
the problem is like you shouldn't be doing that to your own players.
Yeah.
It is good.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna about do it here for this episode. Before we get out of here, BLG, do you have any final thoughts? Anything we didn't ask you about you wanted to mention? Anything you want to plug, man? The floor is yours.
Yeah, two quick things on Eagles. I mean, I think Jalen Hurts has had a good start to training camp, had his worst day of practice so far. But I mean, going back to the spring, like he's just completing such a high rate of his passes. This ball has been rarely hitting the ground for most of these practices. So good to see. I think he's really evolved as a practice player. And then overall, I just think the vibes are really good for this team. That's another reason why I think they do have a good chance to win the NFC East again, is because unlike all these other teams with Terry McLaurin, with Michael Parson, the Eagles don't have any kind of drama, really, not just contract drama, like any drama, really, at all going on with the team. And that is way different than how it felt and how it was coming off their last Super Bowl win, when there was absolutely weird energy of who's the starting quarterback between Nick Foles and Carson Wentz, and the injury, and when's Wentz going to be back. There was like a lot of just different dynamics at play at that time. Also, maybe not necessarily knowing how to deal with success for the first time like that. Whereas this team seems, maybe if anything, too locked in on the fact that they are turning the page to this 2025 season and are almost acting like they didn't even win the Super Bowl. That's obviously hyperbolic. They do know that, and the rings will be a nice reminder. But
Except for Jaylen, because he won't wear his.
He won't wear it.
Is that disrespectful? Tune into my show at 9 tonight. No, I'm just kidding.
It's very unsurprising. Like that's the least shocking thing to me, that he would not wear his ring, and totally fits his brand. So, but yeah, I think for as far as Super Bowl winning teams go, I would think this team seems to be pretty hungry, and I think they're doing and saying all the right things, and the vibes are good. And I think that's another kind of big picture takeaway you can take away from training camp each year. By contrast, I forget which year this was. Maybe it was the 2020 season, where like Ertz was unhappy with a contract, and Brandon Brooks gets hurt. Like there's all this like bad stuff going on, and they're like, well, maybe the big picture here isn't looking great. So the big picture seems to be good for this team.
All right, awesome. Well, BLG, thanks for coming to join us. Always enjoy getting to have a chat with you, especially about practices that Jonny and I can't attend. So, somebody asked us in our Discord, like, when's BLG going to get you into practice? I was like, well, it's like a 23-hour drive for me to get there. So I have no doubt BLG could get me in the door, but I cannot get there. So, but we always appreciate having you on. We will definitely try to sit down and do this again. You guys be sure you're following BLG and Jonny and their work on Bleeding Green Nation. Drop them a follow on Twitter. Brandon is at Brandon Gowton. Jonny is at JohnnyPage9. I am at Shane Half NFL. And we will catch you guys next time.